So, welcome to Poetry Out Loud. I want to extend greetings from Mr. Brown, who was invited to be here today. You should all know that his last cancer scan, he was cancer-free. However, is still recovering from the treatment that's involved. And so he just couldn't make it today, but he wanted to wish you all good luck and hope that you all enjoyed Poetry Out Loud as much as he has over the years. As most of you know, there's a definite skill set used when one memorizes and then recites a poem. It isn't just about memorizing the words. It's understanding the poet's meaning and conveying that to the audience. It's also about having the composure to stand in front of your peers to share the story that you've discovered. Today, we have 13 students who've accepted their teacher's nomination to share their poems with you, their classmates and teachers. I, along with the members of the English department, applaud their efforts as well as what all of you accomplished in participating this year in Poetry Out Loud. To get us started, I'd like to introduce our judges, Ms. Spethman, Ms. Tinty, and Ms. Bachner. Keeping track of the score for accuracy will be Mr. Matarazzo, and handling the computations will be Mr. DeFalco. We begin with Jeffrey Skinner, a poet, playwright, and author of a number of short stories. He's a 2014 Poetry Fellowship recipient from the Guggenheim Foundation. If winning a Guggenheim Fellowship doesn't have any particular meaning for some of you, imagine that for a rising poet, it's a little like being named a top prospect in a major sports franchise. Please welcome Elizabeth Harrington, reciting The Bookshelf of the God of Infinite Space.
The Bookshelf of the God of Infinite Space by Jeffrey Skinner. You would expect an uncountable number, acres and acres of books in rows like wheat or gold bullion, or that the words just appear in the mind like banner headlines. In fact, there is one shelf holding a modest number, 10 or 12 volumes, no dust jackets because no dust. Covers made of gold or skin, or golden skin, or creosote, or rain soaked macadam, or some mix of salt and glass. You turn a page and mountains rise, clouds drawn by children bubble in the sky. You are 20 again, trying to read a map dissolving in your hands. I say you and mean me. Say God and mean librarian who, after long research, offers you a glass of water and an apple. You, grateful to discover your name, a footnote in that book.
The idea of a bookshelf with God is one that has been around for a long time. As we were just actually talking about yesterday in British literature, we were talking about John Donne, and John Donne had used the same example of each of our lives being a chapter that's found in a book that God has on his bookshelf in heaven for us. I almost feel like I should have the Jeopardy theme song music up here while the judges are doing the score calculations. Didn't bring my phone down with me at this point in time, but maybe next year I'll have to add that to the program. As one of America's fireside poets, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow displayed an interest in linguistics at an early age, eventually teaching modern languages at Harvard. His idealistic poetry struck a chord with a young country sharply divided over slavery. Poems such as the narrative Evangeline and Paul Revere's Ride made Longfellow the most popular poet of the 19th century in America. Please welcome Aidan Gavin reciting The Arrow and the Song.
The Arrow and the Song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For so swiftly it flew, the sight could not follow in its flight. I sang a song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For who has sight so keen and strong that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow, still unbroke, and the song, from beginning to end, I found again in the heart of a friend.
One of the skills that I know many of you have practiced in speech class is that ability to connect with your audience. And that, I think, is one of the most challenging aspects of poetry out loud. It's not just the memorization, it's that ability to connect with the people who are listening to you speak. Changing gears a little bit, we come into the 20th century. A 10th generation native of New York City, Taylor Mali is a slam poetry performer and has been on 7 national poetry slam teams. For some of us, it's hard to believe that there's actually a national competition for slam poetry, but there is, and it's very, very cool. I would suggest that you check it out on YouTube. Of those 7 national poetry slam teams Mali participated on, 6 appeared in this final stage, and 4 won the competition. Mali spent 9 years teaching English, history, and math, and he now lectures and conducts workshops for teachers and students all over the world. Please welcome Isabel Rossi reciting Undivided Attention.
Undivided Attention by Taylor Mali. A grand piano wrapped in quilted pads by movers, tied up with canvas straps, like classical music's birthday gift to the criminally insane, is gently nudged without its legs out an 8th floor window on 62nd Street. It dangles in April air from the neck of the mover's crane, Chopin shiny black lacquer squares and dirty white crisscross patterns hanging, like the second to last note of a concerto played on the edge of the seat, the edge of tears, the edge of 8 stories up, going over. It's a piano being pushed out of a window and lowered down onto a flatbed truck. And I'm trying to teach math in the building across the street. Who can teach when there are such lessons to be learned? All the greatest common factors are delivered by long neck cranes and flatbed trucks, or come through everything, even air, like snow. See, snow falls for the first time every year, and every year my students rush to the window as if snow were more interesting than math, which of course it is. So please, let me teach like a Steinway, spinning slowly in April air, so almost falling, so hinderingly dangling from the neck of the mover's crane, so on the edge of losing everything. Let me teach like the first snow, falling.
I think all of us as teachers can relate to the challenge of the excitement of the first snow falling. I remember my first year when I was teaching here, I was in the middle of final exams, and a moose ran by my classroom outside. And it was very hard for the students to come back to focus, because who sees a moose in downtown Burlington?
Thank you.
Back we go to England with William Wordsworth. Born in Cumbria, England, he began writing poetry in grammar school. Before graduating from college, he went on a walking tour of Europe, which deepened his love for nature and his sympathy for the common man, both major themes in his poetry. Wordsworth is best known for lyrical ballads, co-written with Samuel Taylor Coleridge and The Prelude, a romantic epic on the growth of a poet's mind. He was the British Poet Laureate until his death in 1850. Please welcome Will Noonan, reciting lines written in early spring.
Lines Written in Early Spring by William Wordsworth. I heard 1,000 blended notes, while in a grove I sate reclined, in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower, their periwinkle trailed its reeds, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the arid breeze. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man is made of man?
On these days of negative wind chills, it's kind of nice to think that maybe someday there is going to be spring. I hope continuously, although I'm told by the Weather Channel that maybe it's going to be 40 degrees on Monday, so who knows. I hear you there. Next up, coming into contemporary times, we have Jamal May, who was born and raised in Detroit. His first book, Hum, explores machines, technology, obsolescence, and community. In an interview, May stated of his first book, "Ultimately, I'm trying to say something about dictonomy, the uneasy spaces between disparate emotions, and by extension, the uneasy spaces between human connection." May is taught in the Vermont College of Fine Arts MFA program and co-directs the Organic Weapon Arts chapbook and video series. Please welcome Hannah Colley, reciting There Are Birds Here.
There Are Birds Here by Jamal May for Detroit. There are birds here, so many birds here, is what I was trying to say. And when they said those birds were metaphors for what is trapped between buildings and buildings, no. The birds are here to root around for bread. The girls' hands tear and toss like confetti. And no, I do not mean the bread is turned like
and its denizens, a tremendous fish, a glistening armadillo, to quiet, wise, and sad conclusions about humans' place and prospects. Bishop traveled restlessly as an adult, writing often about voyages and of Brazil, where she settled for a time. Please welcome Fred Poland, reciting Filling Station.
Filling Station by Elizabeth Bishop. Oh, but it is dirty, this little filling station. Oil soaked, oil permeated to a disturbing overall
black translucency. Be careful with that match. Father wears a dirty, oil-soaked monkey suit that cuts him under the arms, and several quick and saucy and greasy sons assist him. It's a family filling station, all quite thoroughly dirty. Do they live in the station? It has a cement porch behind the pumps, and on it a set of crushed and grease-impregnated wickerwork. On the wicker sofa, a dirty dog, quite comfy. Some comic books provide the only note of color, of certain color. They lie upon a big, dim doily, draping a tabaret, part of the set, beside a big hirsute begonia. Why the extraneous plant? Why the tabaret? Why, oh why the doily? Embroidered in daisy stitch and marguerites, I think, and heavy with gray crochet. Somebody embroidered the doily. Somebody waters the plant, or oils it maybe. Somebody arranges the rows of cans so that they softly say, "E-so, so, to high-strung automobiles. Somebody loves us all."
Some of you may remember reading Elizabeth Bishop's poem, One Art, where she talks about the art of losing, and she lost continence. Stephen Dunn came into national prominence when his 11th book, Different Hours, won the 2001 Pulitzer Prize. Born in Forest Hills, New York, Dunn earned a degree from Hofstra University in History and English in 1962 and was a key player on the school's greatest ever basketball team. He later earned a Master of Arts in Creative Writing from Syracuse University. His work is very accessible, and it conveys its insights through quiet reflections on everyday events and central human dilemmas. Please welcome Anna Sanasak reading Propositions.
Propositions by Stephen Dunn. Anyone who begins a sentence with, "in all honesty," is about to tell a lie. Anyone who says, "this is how I feel," had better love form more than disclosure. Same for anyone who thinks he thinks well because he had a thought. If you say, "you're ugly," to an ugly person, no credit for honesty, which must always be discovery. An act that qualifies as an achievement. If you persist, you're just a cruel bastard, a pig without a mirror, somebody who hasn't examined himself enough. A hesitation hints at an attempt to be honest, suggests a difficulty is present. A good sentence needs a clause or two. Interruptions, set off by commas, evidence of a slowing down, a rethinking. Before I asked my wife to marry me, I told her I'd never be fully honest. No one, she said, had ever said that to her. I was trying to be radically honest, I said, but in fact had another motive. A claim without a but in it is, at best, only half true. In all honesty, I was asking in advance to be forgiven.
Linda Pastan put her promising literary career on hold when she got married and focused instead on raising a family. Unsettled by her unfulfilled talent, Pastan returned to writing and published her first book, A Perfect Circle of Sun, at age 39. Her themes, not surprisingly, often address domestic life, but she is also influenced by her childhood and growing up in a Jewish family living in the Bronx. Please welcome Sarah Beth American reciting The Obligation to Be Happy.
The Obligation to be Happy by Linda Pastan. It is more onerous than the rights of beauty or housework, harder than love, but you expect it of me casually, the way you expect the sun to come up. Not in spite of rain or clouds, but because of them. And so I smile, as if my own fidelity to sadness were a hidden vice, that downward tug on my mouth, my old suspicion that health and love are brief irrelevancies, no more than laughter in the warm dark, strangled at dawn. Happiness. I try to hoist it on my narrow shoulders again, a knapsack heavy with gold coins. I stumble around the house, bump into things. Only Midas himself would understand.
Born in Baltimore in 1825, poet, fiction writer, and journalist and activist, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was the only child of free African-American parents. She became a traveling speaker on the abolitionist circuit, and she also helped slaves escape through the Underground Railroad and wrote frequently for anti-slavery newspapers, earning her reputation as the mother of African-American journalism. During Reconstruction, Harper was an activist for civil rights, women's rights, and educational opportunity for all. She was superintendent of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, co-founder and vice president of the National Association of Colored Women, and a member of the American Women's Suffrage Association. Harper was also the director of the American Association of Colored Youth. Please welcome Gavin Roberge reciting "Let the Light Enter."
Let the Light Enter by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. The dying words of Goethe. Light, more light. The shadows deepen and my life is ebbing low. Throw the windows wildly open. Light, more light before I go. Softly let the balmy sunshine play around my dying bed. Ere the dimly lighted valley I with lonely feet must tread. Light, more light, for death. For death is weaving shadows round my waning sight, and I fain would gaze upon him in a stream of earthly light. Not for greater gifts of genius, not for thoughts more grandly bright. All the dying poet whispers is a prayer for light, more light. Heeds he not the gathered laurels, fading slowly from his sight, all the poet's aspirations center in that prayer for light. Gracious Savior, as life's daydreams slowly fade from sight, May our dim and longing view be blessed with light, more light.
It's harder than you think being up here doing this. Am I right?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Poet and memoirist Nick Flynn was born in Scituate, Massachusetts on Boston's South Shore. Most of the poems in his first collection, Some Ether, focus on Flynn's tumultuous family life and include a detached yet affecting look at childhood and trauma. Having written about his family in both poetry and prose, Flynn has said, "The way I write, I don't see much distinction between the two. although prose seems more suited to daylight and poetry to night, I try to cook both down to something essential. By the end, hopefully, some balance between mystery and clarity remains. Please welcome Abby Jones, reciting Cartoon Physics, Part 1.
Cartoon Physics, Part 1, by Nick Flynn. Children under, say, 10 shouldn't know that the universe is ever expanding, inexorably pushing into the vacuum, galaxies swallowed by galaxies, whole solar systems collapsing, all of it acted out in silence. At 10, we are still learning the rules of cartoon animation, that if a man draws a door on a rock, only he can pass through it. Anyone else who tries will crash into the rock. 10-year-olds should stick with burning houses, car wrecks, ships going down, earthbound tangible disasters, arenas where they can be heroes. You can run back into a burning house. Sinking ships have lifeboats. The trucks will come with their ladders. If you jump, you will be saved. A child places her hand on the roof of a school bus and drives across a city of sand. She knows the exact spot it will skid, at which point the bridge will give, who will swim to safety, and who will be pulled under by sharks. She will learn that if a man runs off the edge of a cliff, he will not fall until he notices his mistake.
So while our judges do their computing so that we can find out who is going to be representing Rice as we move forward, want to let you know when the semifinals and the finals are. The semifinals for the Vermont state level competition will be held in Barrie at the Barrie Opera House on Thursday, March 7th. The final will be held on Monday, March 18th at the Vermont Public Television Studios in Colchester. We've been very fortunate in the past and have had students advance. Most recently, actually, Maggie Fitzgerald went on and represented Vermont at the Nationals, and she was one of our alums, so that was very exciting. The Burlington area in general has been very proud to say that we've had somebody who actually placed second in Nationals, and that was a student from Burlington High School a few years ago. What? Okay. Breathing is good. All right. Waiting to see how we're doing here. Uh-oh.
just as they need to for the state competition that we're going to prepare. Yeah. And that way we can.
How many do we have?
So,
the two perfect. All right, this is kind of interesting. Okay.
We've actually had something happen that we've never had happen before. And I'd like to say that it's Murphy's Law, because of course I didn't look up what the tie procedures were. So, we've got it figured out though, we looked it up, we checked the official documents, we know what the plan is. Generally, when students go and compete at the state level, they are required to have multiple poems prepared. I did not ask them to prepare multiple poems for today, so that's on me. Which some of them probably would have refused to do it initially if I'd had them do prepare two poems, so that's okay. So this is our plan. We do have a tie for first. The individuals who are tied are going to have to learn two poems to recite in front of the members of the English department in order to have a, can we call it a poem-off?
Yes.
Well, I mean, what else are we going to, it's a poem-off. I guess it could be kind of a golden goal kind of thing. I think ultimately it's better than PKs. Yep, I'm a little bitter still. So, they'll have their original poem that they did today, but they'll also have a second poem that they will have memorized in order to do the poem of. However, in second place, this one's easy, although not off by much. In second place is Fred Poland. So, tied for first place, both with perfect papers. That means a perfect score for understanding and interpretation and a perfect score for accuracy are Anna Senesac and Abby Jones. After we do the poem off, we'll make sure to make an announcement so that you guys won't be kept in suspense too long. You're all set.
Round of applause.
Yay! Round of applause.
There we go.
So, if you would please...
Round of applause for everybody.
Pardon me?
Round of applause for everyone.
Oh, could we have a round of applause for everybody? Please return to your second period class.
Yay!